Hey guys, I'm Avish. This is the 24th video of .NET MAUI with Syncfusion control series. Let's quickly review our previous session before we get started. In the previous session, we learned about the data visualization controls available in Syncfusion MAUI controls. We discussed about Cartesian chart control and explored different types of Cartesian charts such as column, multi-column, bar, spline and bubble charts. Please refer to the previous session before proceeding. In this session, we will continue exploring Cartesian charts and understand advanced features and customizations of Cartesian chart controls. We'll further explore the step line, range, stack column, scatter, range bar and other charts. We'll also look over the available features such as selection and trackball. Let's now switch to the coding session and get going. In the previous sessions, we have created a data visualization model, data visualization charts.xaml file and data visualization view model files, and we have created different Cartesian charts out of these models. We have created the Cartesian charts one after the other, explaining the different types of Cartesian charts. If you notice the output over here, we have the population growth comparison charts, which is our column chart, and we do have our bar chart where the is transpose the property is set to true, which will become the bar chart, and then we have demonstrated a line chart, a dashed line chart, and then we have also used the spline or the curve chart, and then we ended the previous session by creating a bubble chart. Bubble chart has got a great feature to extend the bubbles as gradients. Let me switch back to the data visualization charts.xaml file and create another bubble chart and extend it so that we can change the bubbles to gradients. Let me copy this box view so that it creates a new line separator after the bubble chart. Let me also copy this same bubble chart next to the box view. Once I copy this, let me rename this bubble chart to bubble chart gradient. In order to make this bubble chart as gradient right after the bubble series, we need to add few properties. So let me close this bubble series again, and within that, let me create charts : bubble series dot fill property. Now within the fill property, we can create a radial gradient brush, and then we can define few properties such as, let me define center and radius property to some number, and then let me close this radial gradient brush. Once this is done, we have to define gradient stops with two different colors, which will be gradient stop offset. Let me define the offset as 0 and then the color as some random color, which I'll pick it from my other screen. Let me close this gradient brush and the gradient stop. After this, let me create another gradient stop to put in an offset for the value, and then let me define the color. Let me create a color called dark blue and define that in the color section. Now let me save these two things and it is auto formatted. Let me stop the application and restart it again. Notice that there is an error here stating that the data visualization chart already contains a definition for x-axis. That's because we copy pasted the chart. Either we can retain the name of the axis or we can remove the name completely. I prefer to choose to remove the name unless and until you are accessing the name variable in the code behind. Let me also inspect this to see if there are any other conflicts. Let me scroll to the top. We have already changed the name from bubble chart to bubble chart gradient. So let's try to run this application again. Let me scroll down to the bubble chart. Notice that the gradients are very beautiful and elegant compared to the flat 2D bubbles. Now when I mouse over on this gradient, you see the tooltip legend displaying the information about GDP value, growth and share of the world, similar to what we have got with the earlier bubble chart. Now that we are done with the bubble chart, let me show you how to create an area chart. Area chart and line chart are pretty similar. It is just that within the line chart, whatever the area space is left, we will be filling with area color series. In order to do that, let me copy the line chart, which we have already created in our previous session. We will also copy a line separator. So let me scroll down to the bottom. Right after the bubble chart, let me copy and paste this line chart. And let me rename this xname line chart as area chart. Once this is done, if you scroll down to the bottom after the X and Y axis, we have line data 1 and line data 2. In order to distinguish the difference between both the charts, let me flip-flop this series, line series to the top. Let me remove these marker settings which we defined for the line chart in both the places, and we will be adding fill and stroke colors. Before doing that, we will change this line series to area series. Let me also change the second one. Once the area series is changed, we will create a fill color. I'm defining some random color. Feel free to change it according to your requirement. I'll also create the stroke color for the first area series and for the second area series as well. So let me create some fill colors for the second area series and the stroke color. Once this is done, let's restart the application to notice the output. Notice that we have the GDP growth represented in the form of area chart. Step line is another feature available in Cartesian chart control. Let's see how we can create a step line chart. It is pretty similar to the area chart and line chart, so we can leverage on the code of area chart and line chart. So let me copy and paste the box view and the Cartesian chart and name this as step line chart. Now once this is done, let me scroll down to the bottom. In all of these charts, we'll be playing around with the area series or the series. Now instead of the area series, let me replace this with step line series. Let me also replace the other one with step line series. In the step line series, you will not be having the stroke as a property, and hence it is showing as an error warning message here. Let me remove the stroke from both the places. Let me save this control. Let me switch back and notice the output. Look at that. We do have a step line represented for both the countries. Creating any kind of charts are pretty easy in Syncfusion control series. We just need to control the x-axis, y-axis and the series axis, or the series property. Depending on all the three properties, you'll get different type of charts. Similar to the bar and column chart, we can change the step line from horizontal to vertical using the transposed property. Let me switch back to the code and copy the bar box view and the Cartesian chart that we have created for step line. Paste it here. Change this name of the Cartesian chart from step line chart to step line chart transposed. The transposed property will do the trick for us here. So let me change this to is transport property. Let me set that to true and switch back to the output. Notice that we do have the GDP growth represented in, which is transposed the x and y axis, and you can see that the step line is converted into a transport step line. We can also call it as a vertical step line chart. Let's see how we can create a range chart. The range is the difference between the minimum and maximum values within a set of data points, which provides a measure of variability. Let's say we want to measure the temperature across the year between different months for a country, typically for a US or UK, and we want to capture the temperature in a representational format for each month. Let's say in 1 month there is a minimum and maximum temperature across different months. This will be a perfect example for creating a range chart. So in order to do that, let me switch back to the code and let me switch back to the data visualization model and create a range of temperatures which are static. In order to do that, let me create an observable collection right after this chart colors. Let me create one observable collection and call it as temperature data. Let's assume that this temperature data is for a country. So let me copy the temperature data from my other screen, paste it right after the GDP growth collection. Let's assume that the min and maximum temperatures in Jan to December are represented over here in different number. Now let me stop this application and switch to the data visualization chart.xaml file and let me create a range chart right after this step line chart. Let me create the box view. Let me copy this box view and paste here, and after this let me create a chart called range bar chart with both x and y axis. Right after this, to make it faster, I'm copying it from my other window. Let's define the range series, which is charts colon range column series. Within the range column series, I would say enable animation equal to true, and then I'll also have a fill property which will be some fill color for the range, and then right after this I will have high value equal to the high value that we have associated in the view model, and then we have the item source. Let me bind the item source as binding temperature data that we have just created as observable collection, and then we will need to also have the low value, which is nothing but our value that we have assigned in the collection of the range data. And then let me also create show data labels equal to true, and then we have the x binding path equal to name. Now right after this, let me also create the data label settings as chats colon range column series dot data label settings, and let me create the data label settings for this range chat. I'm going to create a label format and text color embedded within the data label settings. That's all. As I said earlier, we'll be playing around with the x-axis, y-axis, and the series property of the respective chat. In this scenario, it will be range column series. In other scenario, it will be the different series. That's all it is. Let me restart the application and show you the output. Similar to bar and column chat and line chats, range chat does support the transposer functionality. So let me copy and paste this to represent the data in the form of bars instead of columns. Let me copy and paste this data. Let me change this range bar chat to transposed, and then let's add the property is transposed to true. Let me switch back and notice the output. Notice that we have the column based range bar chat, and then we have the bar based range bar chat which is transposed. Let's now understand the stack column chat. The US government spends or the revenue spends per year can be represented as a stack column chat. Let's say from this link, let's understand the different categories for which the US government is spending for social security, national defense, health, and other sectors. Now you have a flip option to choose between percentage and dollars. Let's create a stack column chat using the percentage, and let's pick top 3 of these. Now in order to achieve that, let's switch back to the code and create the data. In the data visualization model, right after this temperature data, let me create another observable collection called revenue data, and let me pre-fill these properties of the revenue data distributed across different years. So right after this temperature data, let me add the data for different years. Now once this is done, we need to switch back to the XAML file, and within the XAML file, let's create a stack column chat. Now in order to create that, let me copy and paste the stack column from my other window. Let me first create a box view to create the line separator, and after this line separator, let me create a stack column chat. Now within the stack column chat, we need to create or add the properties such as legend, x and y axis. So let me create them here right after the chats data, and right after the y-axis, let me start creating the stack column series. That would be chats colon stacking column series. Notice that we have stacking column and stacking column 100 series. We'll talk about the stacking column 100 series in a bit. Let me choose the stacking column series, and then within the stack column series, let me add the properties that we have just defined. So let me create an item source which is nothing but binding to our revenue data. We have the binding path name, binding path value as well. Let me save this, and let me add couple more series, which will be, this will be our social security data SS, and the second one will be the health, second one would be the national defense, so let me call it as defense, and the third one would be insurance. So let me copy and paste this and name it as insurance. That's all it is. We have 3 different stacking column series to represent the social security, defense, and insurance. Now let me restart this application and notice the output. Let me scroll down. Notice that we have the stack column represented. Now right after this, we can create the stack 100 column series. Before that, I do want to add the link to the federal spending data. So let me copy and paste the horizontal stack layout that I have created in my other window, which will point to the US federal spending link. So let me switch back and show you that we now have the source of the federal spending. Let me click on that. It will take you to the federal spending. Now let me change the stack column. Let's also change the title from stack column to yearly spending. Let me copy and paste this box view and chat view right after this horizontal layout, and change the stacking column series to stacking column 100 series. Let me do that for the rest of the 2 properties. Now once this is done, let me switch back and show you the output. Notice that we have the 100 percentile field for the stacking column 100 series. That's the only difference between stacking column and stacking column 100 series. We do have the option to transpose this data, that we can achieve it by transposing the same chart. So let me also do transposure of this chart. Let me copy and paste this again right after this, and let me add is transposed property to true. Let me switch back and notice that we have the yearly spending transposed with the x and y axis being transposed. That's simple it is. Let's now understand how to create a scatter chart, also known as scatter plot. Is a type of data visualization that displays individual data points on a two-dimensional graph. It is particularly useful for showing the relationship between two continuous variables. Each point on the chart represents a single observation, and the position of the point is determined by the values of the two variables being plotted. Now, it will be very confusing if I explain you the theory. Now let's assume that we will create a scatter chart to capture the sale of ice creams and the sale of hot foods based on the temperature. The normal tendency is to have ice cream is when the temperatures are rising and to have hot food when the temperature goes down. Let's represent this data in the scatter plot series. Let me switch back to the data visualization model and create two observable collection called ice cream sales and hot food sales. So let me add those two observable collection here, and then let me define some properties related to these two observable collection. So I'll call them as ice cream sales and the hot food series. Let me copy and paste it from my other machine. So the sale of an ice cream is high, the volume of the ice creams are high when the temperature is rising. Similarly, the sale of hot foods is high when the temperature goes down. I need to represent it properly, but for now, let me use this data and switch to the data visualization chart. Let me start creating the scatter chart right after the stacking chart. So right after this, let me create the box view again, and after this let me start creating the Cartesian chart with the data that we have created. So let me create the x and y axis similar to what we have done with the line chart. Let me close this /charts Cartesian chart. Let's now define the scatter series. So within this series we will create charts colon, and we call this as scatter series. Now within the scatter series we'll add the other property similar to the different one that we have added earlier. So I'm going to add the X name. Again, the X name is optional, it's up to you guys. And then I'm binding the item source with ice cream sales with some opacity, binding path and binding X binding path and Y binding path. Similarly, I'll create scatter series 2 and I'll assign the hot food sales so that those dots can be represented on the chart. Now let's restart this application and notice the output. Look at that, we have an error. So let's correct that property, hyperlink layout. So we do have hyperlink layout 1 and 2. Let me name it as 2. Let's start this application. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Notice that we do have the different scatter charts here with the data being scattered across X and Y axis. The temperature and the sales are the comparison with the legends of ice cream sales and hot food sales. Now we can also increase the point height and point width. I can make it from 8 to 16 for the widths, and notice that they have changed here. Feel free to change it as per your requirement and feel free to plot as many scatter charts as you want based on your input and output. Trackball is another feature available in Cartesian charts where you can track the position of the selection in the vertical column. So we can create a trackball using our existing line chart. So let me copy and paste the existing line chart, and let's start modifying this line chart as a trackball, and we will create the trackball behavior within this line chart. So let me start creating the trackball behavior right after this legend, and then let's close this trackball behavior and create charts trackball behavior, and we will add display mode and show line and markers within this behavior. Right after this, we will also create the line style for tracking the pointer. So we will create a charts trackball behavior dot line style with a stroke as red with a stroke width of 1.5. Feel free to customize and change it as per your requirement. And right after this line style, we will create the marker settings, which will have the width, height, fill and stroke width. That's all it is. Now let's restart the application and see how we can point a vertical line within the trackbar in the line series chart. Let me scroll to the bottom. Notice that I have created the same line chart, but whenever I mouse over, we have a vertical line showing the legends as well as tracking the position vertically. That's all it is. Now this gives a notation of tracking the behavior within the line chart. Of all these charts, you might have observed that though we have created these charts, we are unable to select any column or bar within the chat. Syncfusion Cartesian chart control allows you to select a bar and also hook events with that selection. I will show you a simple selection event and I'll leave you to wire up the events for that selection. So let me copy this column chat and paste it and give a selection for this column chat. Let me switch back to the XAML file and copy the first column chat that we have created. So let me copy the Cartesian chat and paste it right after this trackball that we have created earlier. Let me also create the separator, which is our box view just before this. I'll call this as column chat selection. In order to select a particular column, we need to define the selection behavior for this column series. So within this column series, I'm going to add chats column series dot. Notice that we have different options. I'm going to choose selection behavior. Within that, we are going to choose a data point selection behavior, and which will be the name of the data point selection and type and the selection brush. So let me add those properties so that we can, the moment we click on the selection, we will have a selection brush with a dark green fill, and then we have a type deselect and select as well. Now let me switch back to the application and notice the output. Look at that, we have this column chat. The moment I click on that, we have the column chat selected. We can apply this selection for all of these chats. Let me change it from dark green to some dark orange. And we switch back. Notice that we now have the dark orange as the chat selection color. With this, we have successfully learned the Cartesian chart control from the data visualization series. In the next session, we will discuss circular charts from the data visualization series. Thank you for listening and have a great day.